The following program is a real estate and mortgage show and does not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Reality Radio 101, its advertisers and sponsors, or its listening audience. Listener discretion is advised. Good evening and welcome to Your Home, Your Money with your hosts Randy and Jackie Rodney right here on Reality Radio 101. To get on board, send us an email. Our email address is yourhomeyourmoney101@gmail.com. And now, right to your hosts of Your Home, Your Money, Randy and Jackie Rodney.
Well, hello there.
Hey,
y'all.
How's it going out there in Radio Land? Is there any static? No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
You okay?
It's Halloween's coming up, man. I've been looking at Halloween pumpkins and all that, so I thought static, you know.
Static punkity? Pumpkity?
No, what I said was a little better than you, I think. Anyways, another week gone. Real estate still in the toilet. Not getting any better. Interest rates not helping nothing.
Better. It's doing much better.
Well, yeah, it's picked up a bit, but
But it's transactions. They pick up in the fall.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they do.
Until
but
the end of October.
No, pricing's not doing better.
No. I mean, I think there's some stuff out there that's priced pretty well, and it's
really
not moving.
Well.
And it's not moving.
Not right now. It will.
It's not moving at all. And then I was just reading this really interesting article that I thought was a little funny. And it's titled, Canadian Renters Outperform Homeowners in Most Cities, Even in Toronto. So this is their example. I think it's...
I think there's some scenarios where that can be true, for sure.
Yes, but... yes.
Yeah,
there are some people that do
Yeah.
this, but, you know, it says it may seem as clear as mud. Clear as mud, okay. But with a quick example, it becomes straightforward. Say the cost of ownership is $2,000 a month and rent is $1,100. Right there. The renter invests the $900 difference. Right there. The renter portfolio accumulates alongside the owner's equity. If the final ratio is 0.9 and the renter ends up with 90% of the homeowner's wealth, a ratio of 1.1 means the renter ends up 10% ahead. See? Easy.
And so what was the return for the renter? What was it? He was invested in 900?
Yeah, and it says the final ratio is 0.9. The renter ends up with 90%.
0.9, so he's getting... But what's the interest rate? The renter
they don't give none of that.
They got to give it.
They don't.
The scenario doesn't even make sense if they don't.
You can't compare apples to oranges. If you're going to say somebody's paying $2,000 to own a home, then you got to take that same home and tell me what the rent is for that.
They did $1,100.
No, they didn't.
What do you mean? No, they didn't. They did.
Randy,
they said
rent is not
$1,100.
that much. They said for an example.
Yes. So that's their
BS.
example.
It's BS.
Okay, you don't like their examples, what you're saying.
Because...
But that is their example. No, not much you can do about that.
I don't care about their example. I'm picking apart their example.
Why?
Because I think it's ridiculous.
Okay, but...
Because in a perfect world, somebody who's completely penny budgeting, they may take that $900 and invest it, but come on.
But
when you're building up equity... You can't take, like, it's, you know.
But you can. At the end of every 5 years, you can try to do something. So the point here is that their example of a $2,000 mortgage versus an $1,100 rent. So I think if we were to look, like we know a friend right now that called and said they were renting a bedroom out in their house. And that bedroom is $900 a month. So, what are they renting for 11?
That's what I said.
No,
and
I
you,
understand.
That's
No.
what I said, and you weren't agreeing with me.
No, it's not that. I'm just trying to utilize the example as opposed to just shoot it down and then laugh because there's got to be some
No, it
logic
doesn't.
to
These kind of things don't have
Well,
logic.
then don't even mention
They
it.
just have ratings. No, I mention it because I thought it was a little peculiar.
Okay, so here's the thing. So the bedroom, just the bedroom,
Yeah.
is going for $900. So that's not like a master bedroom. So let's say, or
No,
a primary
master bedroom with a bathroom, you're going to pay maybe $1,200 to $1,500.
Okay, so let's say there's your 1,100. It's a small primary with, a small bathroom. Let's call that 1,100. Versus someone owning a house and paying $2,000 a month mortgage. Right there, we can safely say the quality of life for the two are not the same.
Right.
One has their own private residence that they own. The other one is sharing with 4 other people.
Yes.
At least 4 other people. So the quality of life is not the same. So now, so that's the first thing in their example that may not really work very well. The other thing they're saying is that if they took that 900 and invested it, then the question, in order for me to understand that better, would be, what are they investing in? Because there are many investments that go sideways and do not any longer exist. So
and there's no real security.
So let's say you invested in the Bay. You would have $0
right now
after 10 years of investment. You would have grown and then went to 0, and you would have had nothing. So the question becomes, what are you investing in? Because investment is not something that you guarantee that it's going to be there long term. So with a house situation, you've got 25 years. So let's take this person's paying $2,000. Let's just say they're paying it for 25 years. At the end of 25 years, now we're comparing the renter to the owner. So the renter has been renting a room for 25 years and sharing it with other people. So they probably don't have a significant other. They don't have children because you wouldn't be able to raise children in the primary bedroom.
To me, they're making this example as it's equal living.
I understand.
They're saying, you can go rent for $1,100 instead of $2,000 mortgage, but I don't know where you're going to find
they're
that.
Trying to do an example, but this is what I'm saying. Rather than just turn it down, I would like to play the scenario out. So the person who has the house, they can have a family. And their 25 years can go on. The person who did the rental, it really depends on what they invested in. If that investment is still around 25 years later, or has that investment gone south, or have they pulled it out of that investment and put it into another one that happens to still be around, but maybe went through some turmoil, or did it just do really well? Play out both scenarios. Let's pretend that not only did the renter put it in a safe investment, it lasted 25 years where they, at the end of it, could take their money. So here is the difference. The 25 years from any point in time that we've ever seen, the rental prices are not the same. So this renter has to now, 25 years has gone by. They don't have children. They don't have family. They couldn't have got married because they would be living with other groups of people inside that house, and they're just renting. And
Yeah, but they're investing their money
and they
in.
don't have a family, so but they've invested their money, so now they've got their money, it's matured, they're going to take it and live a great life with it. However, the price of rent now is no longer $1,100. The price of rent then would at least be double, $2,200, let's say, because over 25 years, usually we've seen pretty much a doubling easily of the rent. So now they've cashed out, they decide to not live with four people anymore because they're older. And as we get older, we get a little bit more miserable and we want our room. So they're renting their own place. So they can't get a $2,200 place now because the 22 was the old 11. They have to get their own house, which is going to cost them probably somewhere around a $35,000 to $4,000 range for them to live their life out. Whereas the person who purchased the home and let's say, had their family is now grown up. The kids are now starting to flourish on their own. They've gone to university and
Their mortgage is paid off.
and their
probably.
mortgage has been paid off. So their rental, let's call it scenario, their $2,000 a month is no longer exists. They don't have to pay that. Their mortgage is paid off. So while the other person is now paying $3,500 a month, they're paying nothing. So do we now take that $3,500 a month that person's doing, and this person now should pay $3,500 into an investment account to live out the rest of their lives? We're just reversing it, right? Because now they don't have a
I
payment.
know. I'm not following.
So
very
I
well,
was being
sorry.
a little tongue in cheek
Yeah.
there. But
You lost me.
I think the scenario is this: is that there's always scenarios where you could try to circumvent a system of sorts. But when you're talking about real estate, the truth of the matter is this: if you're looking long term and you decide that you're just going to work the process through, you're going to pay your mortgage off, and then you're going to then retire. Okay, so now you bought a house and you bought it for $500,000 in Oshawa, and now it's worth $1 million 25 years later in Oshawa. You take your $1 million now and you go off into happy land, wherever it is. You're going to travel the world. You're going to do whatever it is you're going to do. I don't know. But that is the ownership route. The tenant route has $900 times. Oh, you got your calculator there? Do
Yeah.
this. $900 if their rent could stay at $1,100, which it wouldn't, but let's just pretend it does.
Got it up.
So they're saving $900 times
900 times.
12
Yeah.
times 25.
270,000.
270,000. So the renter now has a $270,000 nest egg, while the homeowner who had the $500,000 home, and if it was a $500,000 home, they wouldn't even be paying $2,000, but let's call it $2,000. They're paying the $2,000. Their house doubled in value because that's typical in 25 years, roughly speaking. They have $1 million. They retired. They've paid off their mortgage, so they sell their house. They have $1 million, whereas the renter only has $270,000. So I'm not really sold on this scenario. They would really have to tell us what the return was and what the investment was, because as we know, different investments just don't exist anymore that were around 25 years ago. There were all kinds of big, huge companies that just look at Blockbusters. If he invested in Blockbusters, where is that? It's absolutely nowhere. So, that's why I would say, what are you investing in? What's the return that you're looking to be able to get year after year after year after year? And how does this person move through life without getting any kind of increase in rent? What
Yeah.
and what's their quality of life? So there's quite a few considerations. I will tell you honestly, the majority of Canadian millionaires became millionaires because they purchased property.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't become millionaires because they bought Bitcoin. There's a percentage of people who did, but the majority of people became millionaires because of real estate. And so while when you purchase a home, it is true that it is not an investment, or it's not an asset. Sorry, it's an investment. It's
Okay.
not an asset. It's a liability. And the reason why it's a liability is because you have to take money out of your pocket and pay it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a liability. Whereas an asset puts money into your pocket. And arguably a house does long term, but we're talking about in the moment.
But does
The future
anything
is the
good
future.
come without pain,
A little bit
work,
of sacrifice. This is very true.
right?
This is very true. Like look
No pain, no
how
gain. But
yes.
also, what about the person that buys the house and really buckles down and every year pays a little extra? I showed a
Mhm.
home to a couple today that they're looking for their second home because they bought their house 10 years ago and they paid their mortgage off in 10 years.
Mhm.
They're living in
Mhm.
$1 million home that they paid the mortgage off in 10 years.
Mhm.
Now they're going to buy a second home. So they're going to use probably some of that. I never, I don't ask where they're getting their money from. It's none of my business. I would assume that possibly they're taking a little bit of equity for the down payment to get a second home. But like, what about that? Like I don't know. Like it just,
Yeah, how are you going to do that as a renter?
right?
You're not.
You're,
It's really
I
simple.
get it that what they're saying. I
I
get it.
understand the
But
philosophy.
to me, you're throwing your money at the wind. And you're right. Real estate has made a lot of people a lot of money. A lot of people back in the day had 4, 5, 6 homes they were renting out. And 25 years later, they got 4, 5, 6 homes. And back in the day, before Kathleen Wynne came in the picture, you couldn't just live in a home for 9 months and not pay someone their rent. That was not happening.
No,
So you
didn't
didn't,
exist.
right? You didn't have those insecurities about having that investment, which was the kind of the talk I had with the couple today. I mean, I met them today for the first time, and then when they told me what their plan was, I said, well, I asked a couple questions. I said, well, have you been landlords before? Have you rented to people before? They said no. And I said, well, that it's really tough out there right now. I said, a lot of people are skipping out on rent. It takes a long time to get them out of your house. So you have to be very careful if you're going to do that. And then I explained to them a couple things, where there's companies that will do everything for you and even fight in court up to, I think one company's up to 60,000. They will spend fighting the tenants to get them out or get the money back in court. They collect the money, they deal with the tenant. You just get money come in your bank account and they charge you like 5% of the rent. But you're almost guaranteed no issues. And if there are, you don't have to deal with them.
Right.
They take care of it all. To me, and I said that to them and I said, I know some people think 5% a lot. And they're like, well, for that kind of security, seems like a good deal.
Seems like a great
right?
deal for that kind of security.
So,
and it's 5% if you pay it up for the year. It's 5.5%
if you do it
monthly. It's well worth it.
I think so,
it's
too.
worth the peace of mind. They pretty much take the risk out of it though by only getting AAA tenants.
Yes.
However, a AAA tenant is a AAA tenant until they're not a AAA tenant, and then life becomes not so fun.
I'm telling you, it's going on a lot. It's going on enough that it's a concern, and investors are not wanting to rent anymore. Because they have no security, they have no backing. Landlord and tenant board don't care. They're not rushing anybody to the front that's, no one's paying rent. You waiting in line like everybody else.
There's a a friend who had called, and they have some issues with their tenant, and unfortunately there's not a lot you can do other than fill out your paperwork
And
for the tenant.
you need to be very on top of that. The
And
first day that they pay rent, it doesn't matter if you want to or not. You have to serve them.
the N4.
You have to have that paper trail.
So what they did, they were having real problems with this tenant. And the tenant's not a dummy. They've seen all the stuff all over the news. You're not going to get me out for 6 months to a year, and it could even be longer. So good luck to you. I'm not paying anything, and have a nice day. He says, oh, really? Okay. Picks up the phone, calls their work.
Yes, that was one of our, yeah.
So, the thing about the work is that they can't do anything really about it.
But it can make them look bad.
But there's a couple of things that are interesting when that happens. One, the work doesn't really want that character representing their business. So that's one interesting part of the scenario. The second thing is that that person now is very paranoid that they're going to get their wages docked. So it helps to level the insecurity playing field. That person, the tenant, moved out and quit their job because they didn't want to have that stigma rolling over them. They realized that playing that game, which was a new game for them, isn't worth the reputation and the stigma that comes with it, and the fear and the insecurities and all that stuff. It sounded cool on the news, but it doesn't play out as well in person.
And if you're working for a decent company, they're going to care. Okay, you're going to have some companies that are like, I don't care. That's got nothing to do with me.
Most companies will care.
But
company culture is a pretty important thing. Company culture is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Even us little guys care about it.
Well,
right?
Here's the deal, right? You're only as good as the people that you have behind you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you rely on other people to help you make your company successful, then you're only as good as what they are.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get any better, right? So it's it's different. And you hear that beeping in the background, right?
Yeah, apple pie is what I'm hearing.
My husband, who's the diabetic, decided to have a piece of apple pie with ice cream. And now I hear your dinger going off because your blood sugar's gone crazy.
And you didn't give me pills this morning, so it's a double whammy.
I didn't give a 61-year-old his pills. Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, moving right along, the landlord rental guarantee. So for you landlords that are out there that don't mind taking a 5.5% hit on your monthly payments, how the program works is if you have the tenant pre-approved, then, we have companies that will pre-approve your tenant. So to make sure, they will do credit checks. They will also do some form of rental checks, which are interesting, let's say. And they
what does
will.
that mean?
It's just that there is no real formal place for them to go to get this information. So it would be interesting to know how they derive this information. They also do social media checks to verify that the person is doing social media discussions with regards to, let's say, their work-life balance, and what they've put on the applications. For example, they say one thing on the application, but in social media, that balance is very different. And so they qualify the tenant in several different ways.
Which would be a lot of work to do
Which
on your
for
own.
the average person. So, but you pay for that service. And then so now you have a good tenant. So you take it now over to the guaranteed program, you give it to them, they check and they go, yep, if you put that person in there, we'll guarantee that you're gonna get your rent. So if the tenant decides not to pay, you still get your rent. If and they take the tenant to court, they do all that stuff for you. So it is really helping to make the whole landlord game a little bit more palatable. Because there was a period of time there where it just didn't make any sense. The powers that the tenants have and things of that nature just made it way too risky.
Listen,
You could go bankrupt based on.
I felt that, I don't do a lot, we don't do a lot of leasing. I do it for clients that we have. And I thought I had a pretty good system for
You
checking
did.
them out. I mean, I would drive by where they lived. I would tell them, "Oh, I
You
want
had
to
a
come
you
by,"
had a good system.
and I would go to where they were living. I would see how they were living, look around, and I did that, and I found this great people this one time, but it didn't work out.
Well,
Personalities clashed.
yeah, but it's not like they ripped off
No,
the
they
tenant
didn't.
from.
No,
so
they didn't.
so
But
it did work.
But it didn't. So
Personalities, when you have the landlord living in the same building as the tenants, if the landlord doesn't have thick skin, you remember that there's certain things. We once lived on a corner lot, and behind us was the school. So the kids would always cross over the grass. My wife would get all anxious about it. And he says, why? Why get anxious? Why bother with it? Why try to chase the kids off?
I wasn't chasing the
I
kids
know
off.
you
You just
didn't do
couldn't
that.
keep the grass
You
good.
just were anxious about it. And there was no need for it. So eventually, what we did, we cleared a path for them. Hey, go ahead. Go ahead. So now they were happy with us instead of being angry with us, while neighbors across the street who were anxious with the kids and didn't have the same patience, let's say, as we did, and they weren't as giving and caring and all that stuff as we. They would find on their front lawn stuff on fire and things of that nature, eggs being thrown at their house at night and stuff
Broken
like that.
beer
And guess
balls.
what? And broken beer balls
their
being whipped
driveway.
against their house and their driveway and their garage door. And guess what? It wasn't the same kids that went to the school. It was their older brothers that were
was
doing
hanging
it
out there.
because the kids at the school would go home and complain about this person being a nitty bitty whatever. And the older brothers and things like that, after they're out ripping up the town, they decide to make a pit stop. And so, the moral of the story is it's just not worth getting all excited and that over these kind of things. Just let it roll, live with it, love people, and try to help them best you can. It turned out, well, my wife made us move. And I don't think it was because we were a corner lot. You just didn't really like the way
The neighborhood was changing.
it was adjusting. So we made a move, but before
We
we
thought
did,
we were in a great neighborhood, but
we were in. It was okay. It was a great starter home.
starter home?
It was a great starter home. Yeah, I know it's 3,300 square feet, but it was a starter home in the sense of the neighborhood and everything that we were in. It was great for that. We couldn't afford that home in a non-starter home area or a good location area. It would have been substantially more. So it just gave us a great start at life. And the thing is that, like we said, we had renovated that home and did things for the neighborhood where they were just really happy with us, and we would get great letters. We got tickets to games, hockey games, baseball games, stuff like that. People, and then you get one guy that gives us a bad letter.
I don't know. I bandaged so many skinned knees that some of the kids thought I was a nurse. By trade, they thought I'm no nurse, but They
it
played
was
on our property. They played basketball and they'd skin their knees, and I'd give them freezies and whatever. Right? We'd give them balls of water and give them band-aids and the whole
yeah.
9 yards. And parents knew where their kids were.
We had a philosophy. We were actually going to put, but we ended up moving instead. We were going to put up cameras at the front of our house and broadcast it on the net so that parents could see their kids and know that they're safe. So but we're a little bit out there like that. In the sense that we're really community
Listen,
driven. We've always been
I
that
was
way. Our
always
philosophy.
I was always the mother that drove the kids everywhere. I was always the mother that bought the kids everything. I was the mother that, would drive to Wonderland and drop them and go back. It was always me.
Our
I was that mother.
our philosophy was pretty simple. Everybody's welcome at our house, whether we like them or not. And the reason for that was that we would then know where our kids are and what they're doing. And it comes with a couple of sacrifices, but we just, bite our lip and take the hit.
Well,
And
our house was lived in, that's for sure, because there was constantly kids.
and it was a beautiful thing because our kids were always very well protected and always had a great time and always had great friends visiting them.
It's
It was
still the
good.
place if anybody wants to.
It's the philosophy hasn't changed.
Our house is always where the birthday parties happen, even if it's not our kid's birthday. It's kind of odd, but
But our
mean-
but the only difference is our kids now they're the ones that are running things as opposed to us. But
pretty much, yeah.
and
Pretty much, yeah.
and I
When I'm
think-
like, oh, so and so, these people are coming over. Like, why? I'm like, because that's our friends. It's a little different, but when I grew up, that was how I grew up. Everybody hung out at our house. Like, it wasn't an issue, right? So, I can remember Christmas time, there would be loads of people at our house or whatever, but, I don't know, it's sometimes you can have a clean, tidy house all the time and have nobody going through it, or you can have chaos and you know where your kids are. I don't know.
Everybody's got their choice, but that was the choice that we made, and I wouldn't regret it, and I would do it that way again. I really like the idea of knowing exactly what our children are doing and having them have their, us right there as a safe space.
But we
And,
also,
but we're also very giving
we're
to.
very open family too, though we are. Like, our kids talk to us about everything.
Mhm.
And we don't hold by, like, you know how kids are. One day they hate their friend, the next day they don't. We don't hold. I'm always been a mother that has never, oh, this person did whatever, but then next week they're at our house. Oh, I never was like that. But now I forget what I was going to say.
Sales are up 2.3%.
There we go.
Is
You
that a
just
good
cuts
thing?
me off, anyways.
No, you said you didn't know what you were saying. So how am I cutting you off? Sales are up 2.3%. That's a good thing. Bank of Canada lowered the interest rates
Sales
quarter
are
of a
up.
percent.
Prices aren't up.
Prices are down 5.2%. So transactions, though, we really needed it because transactions for the year, just to sort of try to do a little backtracking here, we're at 42,000 transactions. So there's no way we're going to hit 70,000 transactions for the year. It's not going to happen. We're going to be in the 60s. We're going to have the lowest transactions basically in that last 10 years or more. In 2012, there were 90,000 transactions. This year, if we hit 65, we did good. I don't think we're going to pass. So we're definitely not going to hit 70,000 transactions. Last year, we hit 70,000 transactions. And that's why it's good that this month we're up a little bit because we're at 42,000 and we need the numbers to climb. But if we're going to guesstimate transactions to the end of the year to be somewhere around the 22,000 range. That puts us at 64. So let's call it 65,000. We're not hitting 70,000 transactions. Don't forget, we have already closed out in August. We've got September and October. And that's it. November and December are usually quite slow, and the market tends to decline pretty hard those 2 months. So what we're looking at is transactions going to be below 70,000 for this year, but transactions are up 2.3% for last month. Now, our average price right now is 1,080,000 overall for the year, but for August it was a
Is
million
that,
and
sorry, Ray, is that
22.
all over TREB?
That is
The
for the
greater-
entire TREB, and that is for the entire year.
Okay.
But last month alone was 1,022,000, so it's trailing $60,000 below $58,000 below the average for the year, which is going to put a downward pressure on the average price. So we may close out the year at about 1,050,000 in terms of an average price, which would put us, starting to trail into 2020 pricing. So we're really rolling back the clock. We've rolled back the clock on 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021. We've kind of pretty much on our way to closing that out this year. Next year, we're going to roll back into the 2020s, which was the average price was below $1 million. In 2020. And so it is very possible by the end of next year, we will see an average price throughout the Toronto Real Estate Board regress below $1 million. I remember, do you remember when we were on the show and we were freaking out because the average price hit $1 million? I remember when we were freaking out when the average detached home had hit $1 million. Right now, the average detached home is at 1.3. 1.312. But now, it's at 1.3. The market is still over $1 million. That freaked me out when that happened 4 years ago. And it looks like we're going back and we're going to relive that moment twice. So that's really what's happening there. The new listings are up 9.4%, which is probably not that great of a sign when you see that sales are only up 2.3% and new listings are up 9.4%. That's a 7%, or you can say, a 300 times or 300 or 3x more inventory coming in that's sort of going, the growth of it anyways. And so we have 14,000 new listings come to the market, but only 5,000 are going to sell. But we also have active listings that are already on the market that weren't new, and we're looking at like 27,000 listings when we go active listings. And remember, we only have 5,000 to sell. So if no more new listings came to the market, we would still have 22,000 listings there to sell with only 5,000 sales. However, we're seeing new listings trending up to almost 10% over last year, and therefore adding on to the pile of active listings that are available on the marketplace. Sales to new listing ratio. Sales to new listing ratio is 34%. That's a buyer's market. That is a full-fledged buyer's market, which is been the direction that the entire market has been moving in over these last few years. It has taken time to get there. We went from a seller's market and going down into a balanced market, and then down, and finally the sales and new listing ratio has full-fledged hit the buyer's marketplace. Months of inventory, though, that has not hit the buyer's market place yet. It is in a balanced market, and we're at 4.5 months of inventory, which just basically simply means if no more inventory were to come to the marketplace, it would take us 4.5 months to be able to sell the inventory that we have. And if you remember back when things were hot, it was basically less than a month worth of inventory. But now we're at 4.5 months. We're in a balanced position where as inventory stacks up, you're going to see that move from 4.5 to 5 to 5.5 to 6, fully fledged into the buyer's market territory, but where we haven't quite hit that yet. Average sales to new listing is at 97%, which just basically means overall, if you have a home on the market at $1 million, it'll most likely sell somewhere around the $970,000 price range. If it is priced right, if $1 million is the right price point for it. If $1 million is the high price point, it just won't sell. If in other words, if the home was only worth 900,000, just because you listed at $1 million doesn't mean you're going to sell at 970. It just will not sell. But if it's worth $1 million, you put it on for $1 million, the chances are you're probably going to settle on an offer somewhere in the $970,000 range, according to the Toronto Real Estate Board statistics. And then the average the property days on market. Now, there's the average days on market, which is the listed days on market, which just basically what happens is you get different types of realtors out there. You'll have realtors that after a certain amount of days, the listing starts to get pretty stale. People don't really want to see it so much. Buyers are going to use those number of days on market in order to try to negotiate their pricing downwards. So to try to sidestep that stuff, there's a number of us realtors that will remove that listing from the market and re-enter it in some sort of new fashion. And because of that, the Toronto Real Estate Board says, well, we're going to try to capture that information. So we're going to call that new capture property days on market, and we're going to add the days it was that you had previous to in a previous listing, and see really how long it takes to sell homes. And what they're finding is it's 49 days currently that it takes on average to move a property in this marketplace. And so people were starting to move into that 2-month range for selling properties. So no more are the days when you list it today and in a week or two it's gone. Those days are pretty much a thing of the past. As a matter of fact, it really isn't that abnormal for your home to be listed and nobody even do anything for several days, and then as you get closer to the weekend you start picking up some showings. That would be the not that far off of the mark, to be honest with you. The market is moving slower. Buyers are taking their time. They'll go out and they'll look at a home and absolutely fall in love with it, and they'll still take a week, 4 days, 5 days before they even really consider putting an offer on the property. But meanwhile, they love it, and they love
longer.
it, and even longer.
Because, we just did one last week where the property had been on the market 26 days, nothing happening with it. I spoke to the agent and all that after I showed it, nothing. We put an offer in. 4 hours later, she gets a second offer. Another hour, she gets a third offer. I'm like, And we're both, even her and I were like, I'm seeing this a little bit out there where properties have been on the market a month or so, and then all of a sudden they're getting 2, 3 offers because as soon as somebody bites, the people that liked it wake up.
Yes. They were waiting in the wings, and
But then you end up paying more for it. So in some cases.
in some cases, yes, because they could have tried to negotiate the price downwards. However, and in some cases, these homes were listed at really good prices.
Yes.
The price was really good, and
It's tough
unfortunately,
right now because I was on a computer again tonight looking for a home for somebody, and I'm like seeing houses, and to me, they seem like they're priced really well, but they've been on the market like 50, 60 days.
Mhm.
And when you look at, and I'm like, there's got to be something happening with this house because when you look at the photos, it looks really well kept. In some cases, like renovated some of the major spots, and I'm like, but it's not moving. Like people are not pulling their money out that quickly.
They're taking their time.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. In this marketplace, it's just a real good idea to take your time.
I think so too.
As a buyer,
There's a lot going on. There's a lot going to be going on.
Yes.
If you're not in a rush, it's gold for you out there right now. If you are not in a hurry to buy something, I think there's going to be some good prices coming down the pipeline. Because there's going to have to be. There's going to be. I really believe next year the market's going to be flooded with some homes of people that
There's
don't
gonna
have
be
a
a lot of
choice but
inventory.
to sell,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right now we're seeing, some of these houses are hanging on because maybe they don't really need to sell, some of these people. But I think when you see a lot of it in the spring, because let's keep in mind, a lot of people buy in the spring, they close May, June, maybe July. So those mortgages are coming due now from 2021 next year, right? And people are going to be paying a lot more for their mortgage, and a lot of people aren't going to be able to afford it, unfortunately.
Right.
And they're going to have to sell.
Yes.
And they're not going to have a lot of time to do it if they haven't already. And are trying to time it where they don't have to break their mortgage and pay a fee, right? So it's there could be some strategic planning where you might be able to get your hands on a good deal. Like last week, one of our regular clients, he's an investor, he's a friend of ours, and we did an offer on a really, really disgusting home in Whitby. It was bad inside, everywhere. But it had a really nice lot. It had 4 different entrances to the house where you could, do a couple rental units or whatever, and they're not have to spend extra money to do a separate entrance. And, we went in with an offer, and, I was a little concerned because it was a estate sale. And they had a clause in there that they were not liable for anything at all, not lot lines. If anything was wrong there, the way the house was built, the fence was, on the wrong property, whatever. They were not guaranteeing anything at all. So it turns out, and our guy can be a little bit don't care about that stuff and take the risk, but we're like, this could be a little concerning. It's an older home. We don't know, what if somebody disputes something and now you got to go get a survey. Survey can cost you $2,000-$3,000 right off the get-go, right? If there was an issue. So there's stuff that can come up. And so, we kind of explained all those things to him, and he decided, okay, you know what? Let's keep the offer the way it is. And we didn't put that clause in, and we didn't get the offer, but it sold for the same price as what we offered. But the other buyer took on all the risk. But they actually bought it for the same as what we went in at, right?
What is this number here where that arrow is? So
You can't see it?
no, as a 1,000,009.
The one you circled or the one underneath it?
1,000,009. Where the arrow is going to? 1
Oh
million.
my gosh, you wrote over it.
Yes, 09 is it?
hold on.
So it's almost
Yeah, it looks
1.1.
like 8. Yeah, it looks like a 9.
Okay, so it's almost
Yeah.
1.1
Yeah.
million. So here's what the scenario is. In 2020, in 2020, the average price was 928,000. Okay, the average price of a home in 2020 was 900 and actually, sorry, it's 926,340. So let's just call it 925,000. Let's just round it off to that. And today, the average price is over a million and 25. So it's $100,000 higher than 5 years ago. No, 5 years, as we know, is a magic time. 5 years ago, because in Canada, typically speaking, we do 5-year fixed mortgages. So 5 years from that date, your mortgage is due and you've got to get another mortgage. So this year, we're seeing prices come down because the people who bought it 5 years ago don't like the interest rate that they have now and don't like the payments that this new interest rate gives them. So, they're paying an extra $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month and they're like, whoa, I don't like that. Let me sell the house. So that's why we're seeing inventory sort of pile up. However, remember that the average price was $100,000 lower 5 years ago. Well, 2021 and 2026 is the 5-year spread. 2026 is next year. There were 127,000 transactions as opposed to in 2020 there was 100,000, call it 101,000 transactions. So there were almost 25% more transactions in 2021. So there's even more mortgages coming due for next year, and the average price was almost 1.1 million, when right now the average price is $1.25 million. So think about that for a second. If people who purchased the home were purchasing at 1.1, and now, and let's even say, even if prices now were 1.1, they still have to pay real estate, legal, and all that stuff. They're coming out with a loss. If they are to sell their house, they're going to have to write a check at closing to be able to sell their house, right? Because there's no $100,000 spread like there is this year. The comfort of selling your home this year for those people who bought it 5 years ago this year, that the market differential was $100,000. But next year, it's actually a loss. The average price being almost 1.1, and right now for August, the average price was 1,022,000. So let's call it $1.25 million. So those people are losing money to sell next year. And this is one of the reasons. There's two main reasons why next year is not going to be a good year. And don't listen to anything you hear on the news or any of that stuff. The two reasons are the number of transactions and the average price of the homes 5 years ago. The number of transactions, 127,000. This is our biggest mammoth coming through the system and needing new mortgages. The mortgages back then was 0.25%, the Bank of Canada, where they're at 2.5% now. So that's a big, huge difference. It's moving a decimal point over one whole spot in order. So that's massive. And then on top of that, the number of people being 127,000, that's a big body of homes coming through the system. As it is this year, we're looking at something like 50-something% more power of sales this year than last year. And with
52, I think it was. I think I read 52%. Sorry.
and the kicker that makes this all really bad is that the average price has gone down. So they can't even sell their home and recoup the
Yeah, I
money
know.
that they had put into it then after 5 years. So they're in a lot of trouble if they don't weather. So now the people really, what they have a choice, their choice is to sell the home and write a check and take a hit and get out of the scenario, or pay $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 more per month for the next 5 years. And there's going to be a portion that will do that. There's going to be a portion that can't do that. And that's what's the havoc that I see that's going to run through our real estate market next year. So that's all I have to say, babes.
That's it.
I'm good with that. How are you?
I'm good.
Do you wanna do a little something at the end there?
You want me to do
Are
a
you
little
good?
dance?
A little dance? You do a dance? Come on, get up on the chair and do a dance.
No, I can't dance that good,
You
but
can't dance that good? You're afraid that you might fall?
definitely. I'm not scared that I might. I will.
You will.
I'm
won't you?
extremely clumsy, so that will happen.
Yeah, you actually do scare me every time you get
Yeah.
up on the couch to put food in that
Well,
cat wall
you
thing.
you should have seen me in the basement cleaning this morning, and I fell 2 or 3 times because I had no patience. I was climbing up over everything and moving stuff, and I was like, but nobody heard me. I think I could have died down there, and you guys wouldn't have known.
Well, I remember, and I don't know, I honestly, I don't know when you became clumsy, because I remember that we would play baseball. I'm a bit of, outgoing kind of guy like that. And then my friends, and we're playing baseball, Mr. Slates. And then we have our girlfriends, like not girlfriend, but female friends that are athletes too. And so we played mixed. We played some mixed football. We played some mixed baseball. And I remember one time we were short players.
And I did not want to play.
And Jackie, she would only come and watch. And it was like, what the heck? Jack, will you please play? Oh, no, I can't play. It doesn't matter. We just need a person. We know you can't play, or you would have played. The girl comes out. She's the best female on the team. This girl's catching balls, hitting balls, running to the bases. And I'm like, what? I couldn't even
Look at your eyes
believe
now
it.
because I was sportsy.
No, that was so incredible, because you were the person that just came and sat patiently. But anyways, it's been a great show.
I don't know. I'm not overly, I can play different sports, but I'm not into that.
That's not your thing?
It's not my thing.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
This is your home, your money, and our lives on realityradio101.com. Bye for now.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to Your Home, Your Money with your hosts, Randy and Jackie Rodney, right here on Reality Radio 101.